Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 317 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Summer Rain.
Oh, and it's just the two of us this week.
We did it.
My goodness gracious. I don't know that this has ever happened before. This is going to be an intimate one-on-one conversation with Summer and I on today's episode of the podcast. Very excited to talk to you this week, Summer.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited to talk to you, David.
Oh,
yeah. You'd think we were talking about something intimate, but don't get too excited.
Yeah.
It's just the partner direct.
Well, what could be more intimate than a Nintendo Direct partner showcase? We are going to be talking all about that this week. I'm excited to do so. We've got lots of other things in the news as well beyond just the partner showcase, which was underwhelming, according to a good number of people, but I thought it was actually pretty exciting. We'll get into all of that in a little bit. But Nintendo, talking about news, has raised the price of all of its Switch 1 systems and all the Switch 2 accessories. We'll be talking about that in the news. We also have some other things in there as well, such as Nintendo Quarterly Report. We have sales numbers on the Switch 2 officially from Nintendo here. Mario Kart World got a patch. There have also been a slew of rumors about Metroid Prime 4 and Switch 2 kart manufacturers. We'll be getting into all those and much more in just a moment. But before we do, how are you doing, Summer? You have a good week this past week?
Yeah, I kind of had a weird week, if I'm being honest, mostly because I, as listeners may remember, I moved to Chicago just a little over a year ago. And I don't know how much world news you paid attention to, but Chicago had the worst air quality in the country on Thursday and Friday, second worst in the world, because of how we're being impacted by the Canadian wildfires that are going on right now. And just for whatever reason, the way that the wind blows just impacts us differently. And I am increasingly becoming more sensitive to that. So I had to, my lungs were having a time, and then that impacted other parts of me. But hey, I saw the Superman movie.
What did you think?
That was a great fantasy. I really enjoyed it.
It's a pretty good movie.
And you know that it's a good comic book movie when you are watching the movie, and while you're watching the movie, you think, maybe I will look into which comic books to read after watching this movie.
Wow.
Yeah. There was a moment while I was watching it that it really struck me that I was like, wow, maybe I actually want to read Superman comics now. So, immediately got on the Hoopla app and started getting into that.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. What about you, David?
I had a pretty good week. I also saw a superhero movie this past week when I was in Los Angeles. I saw Fantastic Four: First Steps, which I didn't like as much as Superman, to be honest. I think it was like a fine movie, but I think it hurt itself by releasing so close to Superman, because they're really similar in a lot of ways. But
hard
Superman,
not to compare.
Yeah, Superman just kind of does it a lot better. I also I didn't read a ton of comics when I was a kid. But one of the few comics that I did read was Superman. So it's like, I do have like a bit of a soft spot for Superman. So I think that had a little bit more. But yeah, I was in LA this whole past week. Thank you, Summer, and to Jordan for holding down the podcast while I was gone. You guys did a great episode last week on the future of Animal Crossing. So that was a delight to edit and to listen to. A nice short episode for me to edit while I was on vacation. So I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I had a good time. I mostly hung out with my brother out in LA and his wife and his baby, who is just about to be 1 year old in just a few days' time. In fact, speaking of birthdays, it will be my birthday by the time this episode comes out, or I will have crossed the barrier into the age of 37 and then my niece's birthday is just 2 days after mine. So, so there was a lot of fun stuff to be had there. It's nice to hang out with a baby. That's a very well-behaved baby who would smile at me every time I walked into a room. So that just kind of brightened my morning whenever I would wake up. And cheers to my brother and his wife for letting me crash with them for over a week. So that was very chill of them to let me just kind of stay in that bedroom for so long. But yeah, it was a good time. I saw some friends in LA, went to some comedy shows and stuff like that. Been a little worried about some scan stuff, some medical stuff recently, but got good news this morning on that. which is I was not expecting, if I'm honest. So that has been a bit of a emotional whiplash today, but I think, in the good camp there. So I'm happy to have that. But other than that, I think this week it'll just be mostly finishing up my job. I'm kind of in the home stretch. I think I've got like 5 more days left at my job before I'm laid off. So kind of looking forward to unemployment, if I'm honest. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that's been my week. We can get into a little bit of shout outs from the last couple videos that we put up on our YouTube page and the last episode that we aired. Like I said, we did an episode on the next Animal Crossing game, potentially being an MMO. That was part of what we talked about in that episode. But we had Weast on for that episode. It was really great to hear Weast on another episode of the show. But we did get some comments about that in our Discord, one of which was from A. Musel, who said, "The concept of this makes me giddy. It makes too much sense," referring to the MMO portion of the episode where we were talking about potentially the Nintendo Switch Online playtest being used as a tool to test out Animal Crossing MMOs. We'll talk more about that at the end of the show. And then also, we got a comment on the VOD for the partner showcase that I put up on our YouTube page. Andrew Ryder said, "Have indie games gone too far? Fire game cracking me up, man." And I'm sure we'll also touch base on that a little bit later in the episode as well. That was a very interesting shadow drop, one of the few shadow drops from the partner showcase, but we'll get into that in more detail when we get to the main topic. But before that, I think I just want to take this opportunity to say, if you would like to be shouted out, listener, you can leave a comment on our YouTube, or you could add us on Blue Sky, Instagram, any of these other social media platforms where we are currently, or you could join our Discord and leave some comments in the podcast channel on our Discord. We'd love to have you be a part of the conversation. And we would also love it if you could share the podcast with a friend, either somewhere on social media or post it somewhere like Reddit. Just word of mouth also goes a really long way. And we would also appreciate it if you could like and subscribe on YouTube so you could watch the video version of the show, where we put a lot of work in every week to make a nice video package for you, because we're out here being a multimedia enterprise. But with all that out of the way, I say it's time to get into the news. What do you think about that, Summer? You feeling good?
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. First up, we've got kind of the most breaking news that we can have right now, which is about the price increase that Nintendo has done for its original Switch 1 family of system hardware. So if you're not familiar, Nintendo basically on yesterday, as the day we're recording this, I think it was the 3rd of August, officially raised the price on the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch OLED, and the Nintendo Switch Lite. On top of this, they have also raised the prices on almost all of the accessories for the Switch 2. And that has been pretty much a blanket increase. So I think, what is it now? A pair of Joy-Con 2 is like $100 now. I think the Pro Controller went up from $85 to $90. And the camera even went up and all that kind of stuff. So we knew this was going to happen. These prices have already been increased from what they were originally going to be due to the Trump tariffs. And these have now gone up even more. In the States. This kind of follows suit with Canadian price increases that have happened. But just to cover my bases here, the Nintendo Switch has gone up to $340 from $299. The Switch Lite is now $229, which is up from $199. And the Switch OLED is now $399, which has gone up from $349. What do you think about this, Summer? There's no real good news you could talk about here, but what do you think about kind of Nintendo raising the price on this old console at this point?
On one hand, it feels bizarre because you'd think that they would still want to be getting this into more people's hands, and you'd think that they don't need to keep making money on the original Switch. Mm-hmm. I almost wonder if it's an attempt to just encourage people to get the Switch 2 if they don't have a Switch already. But at the same time, it could just be quote unquote market conditions that this is what they have calculated they have to do in order to continue to make like the same level or possibly slightly lower profits. Like we don't actually know what that looks like internally.
Mhm.
I doubt it's a, I mean, they're a corporation. Like, of course it's a money grab, but like,
Mhm.
I don't think it's a money grab considering what we know about global economics right now.
Sure. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying there. I would say, I don't know. I have a couple kind of theories on this. They, like you said, they quoted market conditions, right, as like
Yeah.
the reasoning for these
Mm-hmm.
increases, and it's hard to deny that that everyone is feeling the pinch of the Trump tariffs right now. I think just the other day, the stock market took a huge crash as a lot of these tariffs were actually being implemented for the first time, or blanket tariffs across many countries. I haven't done as much research into this go round as we did for that first tariffs episode that we did. But long story short, it's bad right now.
Yes. Yep.
And even people in his base are really feeling the pinch of this. And I think it's a major problem for his party right now. But politics aside, I have some theories on why Nintendo did this, particularly for Nintendo Switch 1s instead of Switch 2s. And that is probably to kind of offset the need to raise the price on Switch 2 right now. Because I think that Nintendo really doesn't want to raise the price on the Switch 2 because it's already controversial and expensive, right? And so I think because you have to think that most of the Switch 1s that have the price increase have already been shipped here to the US, right? It's not like they're paying more, because every time you order a Switch 1, it has to ship over from Japan or China or wherever, right? They're probably already sitting here in warehouses, right? So I imagine Nintendo really doesn't want to raise the price of the Switch 2, which they do have to actually pay tariffs on. So I would imagine that the time that I think that the Switch 2 will see a price increase is next year. I think we'll see it either at the beginning of next year or around the end of the financial year for Nintendo. The reason for that being, they'll probably announce that the Switch 2 is getting a price increase at the end of this year, right before the big holiday season. But they're like,
you think so?
We're going to hold it off until 2026, right? When it actually happens, just to boost a bunch of sales and people like panic buying, right? Because like, think about like that episode where we had Chris McKeever on, right? Like just us talking about the fact that the Switch 2 might raise in price, like got him to go out and buy one during that episode, right? So I think that a lot of people would panic buy where before they might have held off on buying a Switch 2 because they're like, oh, we'll wait until more games are out or whatever. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but that's been kind of my pet theory as I've been going through this.
I definitely, I hear what you're saying. I'm conflicted on it in practice because the price of the base Switch just they said this is what's happening and then it happened.
Right.
It wasn't like it's happening next month. It was this is happening and then bam, it happened.
Right.
So that's my hesitation with that, but maybe because it is the newest system. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I can't imagine a world in which Nintendo would want to have any more barriers to entry into the Switch 2 ecosystem.
Sure.
And I think raising the price on all the accessories is already a huge risk. You know what I mean? But
absolutely.
As long as you can get the system in hands. Yeah.
It kind of has me feeling a little bit of like regret / FOMO of not getting a Pro controller this system already. So now I'm like, I definitely don't want one. I guess I'm like, it's more expensive. Like I've got controllers. I will stand up to turn my Switch on. It's fine.
I don't know.
When I'm playing in docked mode.
Feels pretty good. The sticks feel pretty good. But we'll go ahead and move on to our next bit of news here. And that also involves Nintendo financials here. And that is the Nintendo Financial Quarterly Report, which obviously Nintendo does quarterly. That's 4 times a year. This came out this past week. And I think the big takeaways here are on units sold. So the Switch 2 has officially sold 6 million units, according to Nintendo themselves. So that's 6 million units of the Switch 2 itself, 5.63 million copies of Mario Kart World sold, which is a crazy, staggering number. That is, for a game that is like a month or two old, that's already insane. And it also shows that most of those were probably bundles with the Switch 2 itself.
I wish they would include that number, but yeah.
Yeah, I wish they would too. But I think this is also why they do it, right? Because they can make flashy graphics like this, right? To kind of show how well it's all doing. There are also a couple other updates. The Switch 1 is sitting at 153.10 million Switches sold. And that is still a little bit under the DS, which sits at 154 million. So I imagine the next time we have a quarterly report, it will have outsold the DS, which will be a really big milestone. The PS2, however, is still the number one selling console of all time, sitting at 160 million. And apparently that went up a little bit recently. They found extra sales, quote unquote, whatever that means. Yeah, who knows what that means. Maybe they're still selling in Brazil or something like that. It's a little odd to me. But Nintendo has forecasted that by the end of the year, I'm not sure if that's the end of this actual year or fiscal year, they will have outsold the PS2. So do you think that's possible, Summer, for them to sell an additional 7 million units of the original Switch, even with the price increase this year?
I don't think so. I'm extremely doubtful. I think it would have been possible with a price drop, and I think a price drop is what we had all expected. And now that they're going in the opposite direction, and again, just knowing what the current economic feel is, I don't know who's going to be shelling out to make that number go up more. I don't think we're getting 7 million.
Yeah. I mean, we're in it, it's weird that we're in an era now where the prices of old consoles go up when the new console is released,
I think that's why PS2 got the numbers that they did, is because the price kept going down the longer that the PlayStation 3 was out, not up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they made the Slim and then it ended up going for $199 or even $150 towards the end of its life cycle. So, I mean, obviously we're in a very different world now. It's like console prices are going up everywhere. But it is crazy to think that you could get a Switch 2 for only $50 more than a Switch OLED now, right? That might be, again, why? But I think, if they're trying to sell budget systems, I kind of am with you. I don't know that we'll see another 7 million units sold of the original Switch. That's not to say that I don't think people are interested in buying the original Switch still. I think that they will hit that PS2 number eventually, even well into the Switch 2's lifespan.
Sure. Just not this year.
Just not this year. Yeah. Because, I mean, also you have to think that people are going to be, there's never been more used Switches out there than right now, right? Especially with people upgrading. Right. So I don't know. It might be a good time to sell your original Switch if you haven't yet. Just a heads up, listener. We'll go ahead and move on then to our next bit of news, which is a little bit more for the masses here. And that is Mario Paint has been added to Nintendo Classics Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This update pushed out to what used to be called Nintendo Switch Online Super Nintendo Entertainment System, officially changed the name of the app to Nintendo Classics now. So it seems, the ones that still say Nintendo Switch Online on them just need to have games added to them, and then they'll update the entire app with the new naming. But this is really great. This is something we talked about a little bit ago about potentially getting Mario Paint added here on the year of Mario's 40th anniversary. This is a very nostalgic game for me. In fact, my parents are in town right now for my birthday and opened this game up, and they were hit with waves of nostalgia just watching me open this up. Summer, did you play this game when you were younger at all? Do you have any nostalgia for this game?
I don't. I looked into it because I was like, this definitely missed me. I was only one when this game came out. I also didn't have an SNES. So, no, this was not nostalgic for me, but I definitely opened it immediately to play around because I was like, okay, I got to see what the fuss is about.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fantastic game with like tons of character and quirkiness, and it is kind of peak Nintendo weirdo, like back from this era. There's lots of like really strange design decisions that would never happen today and just like scream 90s to me. I love it.
Yeah. As soon as I found the fly swatting game, I was like, oh, there's the Nintendo.
Right. Yeah. Just a really like fantastic mouse-based mini game in this that it's great to play and feels really fun. This obviously is a mouse-only game. When this game originally released back in the 90s, it shipped with a Super Nintendo mouse that you would plug into the console and like kind of a plastic mouse pad that you would play around with. It was the old kind of mouse too, with like the rubber ball inside, and that was how they did the sensing. So on the Switch 2, this utilizes the Joy-Con 2, which obviously have a mouse mode and a mouse sensor on them. But also, I think something that we were all concerned about on whether or not we would actually get this game is whether or not it would actually come to the Switch 1 Nintendo Switch Online app, right? But it does seem that it did come to that. It just requires you to plug in a USB mouse into the dock, which has always been possible on the Switch 1, but just never like officially supported in Nintendo games, right?
Yeah.
But either way, really, really cool to see. I fired this up. I've been playing around with it a little bit, just getting my nostalgia back on. It moves pretty slow in a world of Photoshop and lots of stuff like that. But it does still have tons of character. It's a lot of fun to make animations and music in this game. And yeah, all the little Easter eggs in it as well are just kind of fun to find. But we'll go ahead and move on then to our next bit of news, which is about Mario Kart World. So the first like big, sizable, chunky patch for Mario Kart World has released. And I say first major one, that first one that kind of broke the game is maybe still a little bit bigger up to this point. But it seems like Nintendo at least is trying to mitigate some of the frustration around the last patch for this game. And there have been some updates included. The biggest of which is that they have made comms easier in this game. So that was a huge complaint, was that the game was just too hard, that a lot of the 150cc comms were just a little bit too challenging for people. I liked the challenge personally, but I understand in a game like Mario Kart World that lots and lots of people were frustrated by consistently losing to CPUs, especially in knockout tours. It was really, really hard to get 3 stars in knockout tours. So I think I'm mostly okay with that change. They also have done a few other things as well. They added a little bar to the bottom when you're playing online that shows like the progress of races as they're going. They have some other quality of life stuff. I think the boomerang doesn't home as much anymore. I don't know anybody that was complaining about that, but good for people that did not like that in this game, I suppose. But then kind of like the biggest one that I think is worth talking about is that they have allegedly increased the amount of times that you would see a 3-lap race show up in Versus and I think wireless multiplayer, and also by that score, also just when you play online. I have played this a little bit since the patch. My brother got a Switch 2 when I was in LA, so we were playing some Mario Kart together. You still sure do get a lot of those intermission tracks and, going from one course to another, right? Those still are the majority of what you get when you get those levels, shown to you. But I was seeing maybe a little bit more of the three-lap races coming up. I still think it would behoove Nintendo to add that into its own mode so that people could actually play 3-lap races whenever they want online. But what about you, Summer? Are you still playing this game? Is this exciting to you, or what do you think about this update?
Yeah, I actually put it up the other day because I, after the patch, I wanted to get a feel for it. Like, okay, yeah, let's see if it feels better. And no, I mean, I didn't necessarily think that it felt bad before. So yeah, my answer is that I played it since the patch. I don't know if I'm personally noticing anything different about it, but I am still playing it. Like, let's get online and play Mario Kart.
Yeah. I would like to play more of the game in general, and I think that overall it feels pretty similar. But I am glad to see that they are doing some stuff. I really hope that they will add modes and actually do more sizable changes in the future. The game still does feel a little bit half-cocked. But I'll say after playing online recently, when I did get those 3-lap races showing up, people were still picking the intermission courses. And they would almost always win, even when, I was always voting for the 3-lap race. But
maybe it was a vocal minority then on the 3-lap races.
Maybe online. It was, yeah. Or it's just like a lot of the excuse me, maybe it's just that a lot of, the big peak, everybody is only playing this game right now, has gone down since Donkey Kong came out. And you're getting people that more just kind of enjoy the game by its own merits that are playing right now. But I was enjoying quite a few of those intermissions. I think that there are a few, now that people are getting to know them better, you see people overwhelmingly picking the more interesting intermissions, right? Like there are some where it's like, a lot of the ones that go to like Boo Cinema, like, have that like Banshee Boardwalk sort of like, bit that goes there that isn't a part of any of the 3-lap races, right? So there are a lot of the ones that have like more unique elements, like going to and from places. I see those getting picked more online. So I think people are just kind of like becoming a bit more hip to what is actually fun from those intermission courses, because there are like 200 or something, right? So they're not all winners, but some of them are pretty fun, I think.
Right.
Well, we'll go ahead and move on there to our next bit of news, which involves game key cards and Switch 2 cart manufacturers. Looks like you already maybe have something you want to say about this, Summer. Is there anything you want to lead us off with?
Actually, I don't. That's what I'm on. When I saw different sizes, I think I was confused because I thought, how could it be a different size? It's physically only capable of holding a certain size of, and then I realized they meant how much space was within the cart, not the actual like physical size of it.
Oh, right. You mean like the size and shape of the cart.
I was like, so I know that when we got the new 3DS, it was like a notch on the cart that like was the distinguisher. And I was like, I'm pretty sure Nintendo Switch 2 carts are exactly the same size. My brain thinks they're bigger because they're red, but that's not.
It's an optical illusion, I'd imagine.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
But that's not what this is about.
No, not what this is about. Basically, long story short here, there's a rumor going around that the maker of the Switch 2 carts, which I think is all done by one company, and they're called Macronics, reported in their quarterly earnings that they will start using MLC NAND and 3D NAND to meet varying capacity requirements. So if you don't know what that means, I don't blame you. But the idea is that this might mean that there can be bigger carts coming that are larger than the 64 gig carts themselves, right? So that would maybe show that Nintendo has had conversations with third parties about maybe subsidizing the cost of some of these carts, getting a lot of these bigger games fully onto carts instead of using game key cards. And I think that also shows that people are upset about game key cards, and people don't really like the idea of having to download a game after they buy it. I know that recently Nintendo in Japan was sending out surveys to people asking what they thought about game key cards, and the response was overwhelmingly negative. I know that sales have been very low for game key card games, and people are just either not buying the games or just buying them digitally, which kind of, I think Nintendo was shocked by, because they, obviously game key cards like have advantages. You could sell them and you can trade them with people and whatever, but it's like, it is frustrating because people are used to physical games that are all included on the card, and it's good for preservation and stuff like that. So I know that here in the West, surveys have been going out as well about game key cards and just physical games in particular. Like I know it was a friend of the show, John Cartwright, was posting the survey that he got, and it was just, what is it that you like about physical games, right? And you could kind of check up to 3, and he just checked 9 of all the things he liked about physical games, right? So I think it's definitely worth answering those emails if you get them, making your voice heard. But what do you think about this, Summer? I know you have some actual cards that are game key cards, right?
Yes. And so specifically the one that I have is for Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. And the downfall of it being a key card finally hit me the other day when I was looking at the overall storage that was available on my Switch 2, realizing like that's kind of what hit me was, the physical size of the game is not on the cart. It has to be on my Switch. And unless I want to regularly uninstall and have to re-download games, which I don't want to do, I'm going to have to buy a micro SD card. And I think, so for me, what I think is the either or for Nintendo is either the games need to be available physically on the game, or the Nintendo Switch 2 needs to have a much higher base level storage.
Right. Which they're not going to do until an OLED or some mid-gen refresh, right?
Sure. But that's kind of my take on that, because I can't be expected to, they know that people who own their hardware aren't planning on only owning 3 games.
Right.
I'm already at capacity, and I don't have a lot of games on my Switch 2 yet.
Yeah. I mean, I feel your pain as a digital only guy, and I've been a digital only guy since the Switch 1. But even when the Switch 1 came out, like SD cards were not that expensive. Like the SD Express cards,
this new thing.
Yeah, they're just super expensive for the Switch 2. So like I'm constantly downloading and deleting games, and it's just a part of my life right now, but I understand the frustration of people that have lived with, just physical collectors that only ever have to download updates for their games, being very frustrated by this.
Exactly. I realized immediately, this is the advantage of having a physical game.
Yeah.
It doesn't take up that much space on my system. I don't have to wait for it to upload or download. Yeah.
I think it's going to be super clutch, especially when like Call of Duty eventually comes to the Switch too. Where those games are historically like 130 gigs. I can't imagine EA is going to spend a ton of money like compressing those down, to especially not down to 64 gig. But that is like a prime candidate for a game key card. But it's going to take forever. When you buy a physical game, you don't want to have to sit there and download it. That's kind of the price you pay, right? So I think that if we start to see 128 gig, game carts. I imagine those will be a little pricey in order to buy, but it would really make physical collectors pretty happy, I think. But we'll have to see how that goes in the future. Next bit of news here concerns the Pokemon TCG Pocket game and some plagiarism controversy. Do you want to take this one away, Summer?
Yeah, there was a new expansion that was due to come out for Pokemon TCG Pocket last week. It was featuring Ho-Oh and Lugia, gold, silver, 2nd gen. And it was literally hours before it was supposed to come out that Pokemon released a statement saying that the key art for the souped up versions of the cards for Ho-Oh and Lugia wasn't going to be available because they just found out that the art that they had selected was actually plagiarized of fan art. There are a couple of different areas that we can dissect with this decision of the things going on here. Like, first of all, it makes me think, is Pokemon so big a company that this was everybody expected everybody was doing their jobs, and so several people didn't do their jobs in a pipeline situation? Because you would think a company as big as Pokemon should surely notice something like this. Another thing to consider is that given what copyright laws kind of look like, Pokemon didn't have to make this decision. They could have said, no, we're going to move forward with this art because it is our intellectual property.
Sure.
We have the rights to use other people's work of our property if we want to, and we don't have to credit them. I personally fell to this with Pokemon. They used my cosplay photos. They asked me for permission. They sure didn't credit me. This was years ago, but that's a known thing that they could have just moved forward with it. So the fact that they addressed this, acknowledged it, that almost sets up a weird precedent of no, we actually don't want to we acknowledge that this is a plagiarism issue and we don't want to steal someone's work, but also acknowledging fan art in that space in that kind of ways. And maybe is more something to the TCG specifically because they respect their artists so much, and who knows, I think fan artists sometimes do get contracted to work on the TCG cards in an official capacity. So maybe this is an effort to not ruin those perceived relationships, keeping from an artistic integrity space. Lots to think about with this whole thing, and I am just eagerly awaiting my cards to no longer say art coming soon in my app.
And so it just says that in the app right now. It says art coming soon.
Yeah, it literally is just a blank blue box in where the art should be that says art coming soon.
Wow. Well, hey, Pokemon Company, if you're listening, I know a lot of out of work artists right now that would love to draw your Ho-Oh. So hit me up if you're looking for somebody for that. I've got a few friends that occasionally do do stuff for Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering and stuff like that I'm sure would love to draw some Pokemon. So please hit us up. Thank you for that, Summer. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next bit of news, which involves what we talked about last week, which is the itch.io scandal, which has also been affecting Steam, for the record. It's not just itch.io, but payment processors getting up into itch.io's business, and then itch.io removing NSFW games because of issues with their payment processors, right? So just a little bit of an update here. We don't have to get too far into it right now, but it does seem that itch.io has re-indexed free NSFW games. So that's games that don't take payment, right? I know on itch.io you can tip and you can you can pay for games that are free if you want. I imagine those games that were re-indexed have that option taken away right now, but at least you can find them again on the website. So that's good. It seems that Itch wants to, actually put all this stuff back up when they can. I don't think that any of this was their decision. Their hands were kind of tied for a lot of this, but they have said recently in a statement that I saw on Blue Sky that they are currently seeking out new payment processors that will allow these games to be purchased. Do you have any thoughts on this, Summer? Just kind of following up what you guys talked about last week.
Yeah, I think that you hit the major takeaways so far. It is an ongoing, developing situation, and another big takeaway is that calling in does work. If you want that information, hit me up. You can find it because MasterCard specifically is starting to backpedal. So you know that calling in is working, and like major news outlets are picking up on this specifically with these credit card companies because it is like keeping their lines tied up. So other people with regular problems that aren't gamers can't even get in right now because gamers are furious. So, right. Like don't take away our porn, because it's going to upset the entire ecosystem.
Welcome to Texas.
Oh God. Yeah, seriously. That's basically it. Keep calling. It's working.
Yep. Hell yeah. Good to know. Well, we're going to keep following that story, obviously, as it progresses. But we're going to move on to the last couple of little things of news here. This includes another rumor about Metroid Prime 4. We've talked about him quite a bit on the podcast. That's Kiwi Talks, who is known for interviewing ex-Retro employees, does a lot of interviews and a lot of kind of exposés on the inner workings of Retro Studios here in Austin, Texas. And essentially, there's been a lot of like back and forth on Metroid Prime 4. Is it going to be delayed? Is it not? Kiwi Talk said that it could very potentially be delayed to 2026. He's been vague about everything. I'm sure he doesn't want to get anybody in trouble. But the main idea is that the development has run into a bit of a snag with Metroid Prime 4. There's some sort of anomaly that has popped up in old Metroid Prime games that has popped up and is bigger and harder this time. I don't know. I'm a little bit tired of covering Kiwi Talks because there's been a lot of back and forth on Metroid Prime 4. Nintendo said, no, the game is coming 2025. I personally have heard differing reports from people that I know that work at Retro. Some of them saying that contracts are coming to a close. Some of them are saying that they're still working. I'm sure that there are people at Retro right now that are putting final touches on Metroid Prime 4. I think that's why we haven't heard a release date for this game yet. That said, I also think that they're already working on whatever the next game is, right? So it's hard to say exactly who is continuing to work on Metroid Prime 4, like where the development is, but I guarantee you this game is almost done. And I think that Nintendo is holding it so that Nintendo can show the release date with the September Direct or whenever the next big general Direct is going to be, right? We didn't get, obviously, a general Direct this summer like we usually do, but we'll talk about the reasons why in the main topic. But either way, I don't think there's much to worry about as far as I'm concerned here. If you want to look into some of this stuff, definitely follow Kiwi Talks if you're okay with having lots of differing information over on Twitter. But for me, I think I'm going to be sitting out the rest of this rumor cycle about Metroid Prime 4 for right now because I don't want to get any of my friends in trouble. And then also, I just think we'll be hearing about this sooner rather than later. I'm not too worried about it. The game will be playable at Fan Expo Canada, which is happening later this month. And I think that overall, the word is good on this. Do you have any thoughts on Metroid? I know you're not a huge Metroid Prime person, Summer.
No, and Don't have anything to add.
Excellent. I love to hear it. Well, some late breaking news, which we don't usually cover in Nintendo Music Uploads on this podcast because they happen every single week. But my God, gang, this is a big day for David. Just in time for my birthday, Nintendo has added my favorite video game soundtrack of all time to Nintendo Music, and that being Pilot Wings for the Super Nintendo, if you can believe it. And basically, not only is it the soundtrack for Pilot Wings for the Super Nintendo, which was composed by the incredible Soyo Oka, truly one of the great jazz fusion soundtracks of the Super Nintendo era. Also, we have the soundtracks for Pilot Wings 64 and Pilot Wings Resort, all going onto the service at the same time. I've been itching and burning for Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza soundtracks to go up on the service. Seems like they're trying to hold those for whatever reason. I'm not exactly sure. Hopefully those go up sooner rather than later. But if we're going to get stuff like this in the meantime, I'm happy. Summer, are you a fan of these soundtracks at all? Do you like the Pilot Wings games, or are you just happy for me?
I love the Pilot Wings soundtracks.
Me too.
They're incredible. I'm not a huge fan of the games, but I acknowledge that the soundtracks are great.
Absolutely. Well, I know my dad, who's in town, will be very excited to hear this. This is a big game for both of us. When I was young, my dad's a pilot, so he introduced me to a lot of flying and stuff like that. So excited to see that. But great breaking news there. Thank you, Summer, for pointing that out to me as we get into it. But I think that's going to do it for our news here. Obviously, the partner showcase happened, and we're going to talk all about that in our main topic. So don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be back to talk all about the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase right after this break. And we're back from that wonderful little stinger from the Pilot Wings soundtrack. If you weren't aware, the music we use for the main topic and games we're playing section are little stingers from the Pilot Wings Super Nintendo soundtrack. So I'm just giddy with that announcement, Summer. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. But we are here in the main topic to talk all about the Nintendo Direct that happened the other day. It was a partner showcase, obviously. That was a majority third-party games coming to both Switch and Switch 2. This has not been very well received. I think most people online have said that this was a pretty weak Direct overall. I have some opinions on it as well, but I think before we kind of jump into the majority of this, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Summer, and kind of what your overall take was on this partner Direct. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I would say that I was a little middling on it, mostly just because it is a partner Direct. I don't go into it with a lot of huge expectations. I don't usually expect anything to be a big bombshell. That being said, there were probably 2 announcements in this that struck me. And I'm sure I don't know that I give the entire thing a rating for that, but it is nice to see that there were things that were announced for the first time from this Direct. And I think that's neat. But there were a lot of it did feel like fluff of things that we already knew about. So, take that for what you will too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I pretty much feel the same way about it. I think that, it was a little weak overall. I felt like a lot of Nintendo dropped a lot of kind of B, C tier news leading up to this. There was that 8-minute long Dragon Drive overview trailer that came out, before this released. There was the Mario Paint drop that came out. I think it's stuff that they were we really want to save most of this for September. And if saying, if we put all the first party stuff in, is it going to be exciting enough to be an A or B, Direct? If the answer is no, then they strip all that stuff out and just have it come out as a partner showcase, and they release everything kind of on their own socials or on Nintendo today, as they did this past time, right? So I think this was kind of one of those, and so it always ends up a little bit underwhelming. But I think overall, especially if you're an RPG fan, there's a lot of really interesting stuff. And there's one game that dropped in particular, at least a demo for a game that I'm very excited for, but we'll get to that towards the end of the main topic here. But we'll go ahead and start with the first bit of announcement, which was Monster Hunter Stories 3. which during the stream I was calling Monster Hunter Stories Three Houses because the art style was very Fire Emblem Three Houses. Are you a fan of Monster Hunter or the Monster Hunter Stories games?
Yeah, I haven't played any of these games, so I cannot speak to them. I'm sure that I would maybe enjoy a title here or there. Just, the never-ending backlog. It's a blind spot for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I never really got into these, but I have heard that they're fun. I know a lot of the graphical style of the previous Monster Hunter Stories games have been a little bit simpler, a little bit more chibi. Maybe not exactly chibi, but a more simplistic art style. This one definitely seems like it's a progression of the franchise, which is good to see. Do you think you might pick this up? Is it looking like Three Houses going to sway you at all to maybe picking up Monster Hunter Stories?
That's funny. I know. Yeah, you say absolutely. Like my ears definitely perk up hearing that comparison. I think I will absolutely hold out for reviews. But if the reviews, if they're vibing, I'll pick it up because we're in a Fire Emblem drought right now.
That's
so
true.
Sure, why not?
That's true. I actually saw a statistic that was if there is no Fire Emblem game released this year or any other game from Intelligent Systems, it'll be the first time in I think 10 or 20 years that Intelligent Systems has not put out a game. Like they usually have at least one game come out every year.
I guess between Paper Mario and WarioWare.
And Rhythm Heaven. Right. Yeah. They always have something dropping every year.
Jeez.
So I think it's possible we'll still see Fire Emblem.
But because if we don't see it this year, that means that we're not getting it next year because we're getting Rhythm Heaven next year, which means it's going to be 2 years before we get a Fire Emblem. Anyway, back to the
there have definitely been years they've released a Fire Emblem and a WarioWare in the same year. So that's not what this episode's about. So we will move on. Yeah, please, Politico, please fact check that. But moving on to the next announcement, that was Katamari Damacy. There is a new Katamari Damacy game coming out, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is a Switch exclusive. And this is it?
It's a port. It's a port of a mobile game.
I don't actually know if that's true. Is this the Apple Arcade game? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Let me see. Apple Arcade Katamari game. Because as I understand, this is actually So on Apple, there's Katamari Damacy Rolling Live, which is a new game, which is Apple Arcade exclusive. This is a different game. This is an all brand new thing. So this is not even, because that's what I thought at first, is it was the Apple Arcade game finally leaving Apple jail. But it does seem that this is a brand new game in the series. It goes from different time periods, from Edo, Japan, and different things through time. It has a whole brand new soundtrack and everything like that. So this is a brand new game. As far as I know, it is a Switch 1 exclusive, which means that it was not announced as having a Switch 2 port, which is a bit unfortunate. Hopefully that means that it, will have a free Switch 2 upgrade and not that there's a whole different version that you have to buy. But, if it has to play 720p on my Switch 2, I'll probably still buy it, but I will be a little disappointed. Are you a fan of Katamari Damacy?
Oh yeah, love the Katamari games. So I was excited about this regardless. I had just assumed that it was a port of that other game, but thrilled to find out that it's actually a new game. And you brought up something though that reminded me of something that I guess I wanted to mention at the top, so I'll just mention it now. There was something that was interesting about this direct was at the very beginning of it. They had this whole disclaimer about the icons that are going to be on the screen if the game is for the Switch or the Switch 2 or both. And this is something that signified that we're going to continue to receive, I guess, OG Switch support is kind of what that read to me as. It was just interesting to see because this is the first direct that we've had since the Switch 2 has come out. So them now starting a direct with, oh, by the way, there's going to be this indicator letting you know what game or what system you can play this on. Oh, okay, this is a thing we have to clarify now.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of the early days of the Switch when we were still seeing a lot of 3DS stuff in directs, right? And stuff like that. So, this isn't totally unbelievable, but I do wish that we were seeing more free Nintendo Switch 2 upgrades. I was kind of expecting at this point to have way more of my Switch 1 games running at 1080p in handheld
I
or
agree.
4K on the TV. So, hopefully we hear a lot more about that in a September Direct, or they just drop some randomly because, they did that with Splatoon, obviously. Splatoon 3 got one just kind of randomly dropped. So I think that would be really excellent if they were able to do that. But the next games they showed was Just Dance 2026. I don't know if you have anything to say about Just Dance. I never play any of the Just Dance games, but they sure did show it. They show it every single year.
Yep. We knew this would happen next.
Right. So I think this is also a Switch 1 exclusive. This is not having a Switch 2 version just yet, but I'm sure they still have this game coming out for the fucking Wii U. So we'll have to see. Next up after this was Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which, as I understand, is a fighting game. Is that correct? Do you follow Sparking Zero at all? Dragon Ball, anything like that?
I assume that it's going to be a fighting game. There's probably a story going on. I think that was the big takeaway from this one, is that there were a lot more dialogue options.
Yeah, I know you can replay.
Yeah,
you can replay stuff from the show. Different sort of things, but it's a
Dragon Ball and I tune out. I'm sorry.
Me too, kind of. Look, I loved Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid, but it's like the Dragon Ball Z games that come out recently kind of all blur together a little bit. The more I'm looking at this, it's like kind of like a 3D arena thing. It looks more like a kind of like a sequel to like the Budokai games, but I don't know. I won't be picking this up, but I'm happy for Dragon Ball fans. It's nice that they consistently get games, and we do fuck with Akira Toriyama. But next game that was announced was a Plants vs. Zombies remake. This game is called Plants vs. Zombies Replanted. And so this is not the third game. This is not Garden Warfare. The game had kind of moved into 3D. This looks to be a complete redesign of the original Plants vs. Zombies game. Did you play this series at all, Summer?
No, because I think when it came out, I was like, that is a phone game for people who put games on their phones. So I will not be playing this. That being said, I would like to mention that the trailer for this pleased me. I was like, oh, this is a game trailer. I want in the style of how I want to see more game trailers.
Okay.
Like it felt like how game trailers were like 15, 20 years ago. And I missed that. So I did enjoy that. And then I was like, oh, but it's Plants vs. Zombies for normal people. No, I'm teasing. But I don't play these games.
Yeah. It's not really for me either. I've never been a big fan of the tower defense genre. I guess this would be a part of that genre. So it's not really for me ultimately, but I was kind of poo-pooing on it in the chat, and my chat was giving me shit. They're like, yo, Plants vs. Zombies is actually great. And so I don't know.
Oh,
maybe I'll try it out. But I think if it hasn't grabbed me in the last 20 years, I don't think this re-release is going to change anything. But moving on, we had FC 26. This is EA FC, which is kind of their heir apparent to the FIFA franchise. The Switch has historically gotten much lower fidelity versions of the FIFA games than every other platform. Kind of the versions that were made for like PS3, PS4 before you would get the PS5 versions. This seems to be a fully up to date, obviously a little bit lower fidelity version of EAFC, but at least this seems to be feature complete and in parity with the rest of the modern consoles. I think this looks just actually pretty good. I don't really play soccer games on consoles, but I know that these are system sellers, and I think having an up to snuff, FIFA game on the Switch 2 is probably going to sell some units, I think, of the actual console for more casual fans. I would think so, yeah. I think between this and Madden, which is also coming up here, Madden NFL 26 was also shown later in the presentation. I think that's going to get a lot of people that want to be able to utilize, that big, nice, 1080p screen in handheld mode or tabletop, on the go. People maybe taking breaks while they're playing soccer for real, can play soccer in a digital environment. I don't know. Fuck. I could see it happening. But I think that's maybe all we'll say about that. Moving on, Nintendo showcased a new trailer for Pac-Man World 2 Repack. And this kind of looks incredible.
So clarification, was this an announcement for the game? Did we know about this game before this?
I don't think so. And please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here. But this at least is the first time I've seen
It was the first thing it was the first time that I saw it as well, and I was like just staring agape at my phone as this came on, because I had the original game and I was like, wait, in what universe did anyone else play this game? I thought I made this up and it only existed in my head. Because it's that kind of a game. Like, I'm not itching to buy it again. But it does look incredible. Like, why are they doing this?
Yeah, it looks like they went way harder than they need to.
Why are they doing this?
Yeah, I actually saw like a side by side, because this was originally a PS2 game, right? So there was like, there was obviously Pac-Man World was available for PS1, and they remade that recently, which was a ton of fun, but like it felt like a PS1 game as you're playing it, right? You could feel kind of the age, and the remade graphics like looks cool, but they were kind of bound by a little bit of the camera of the original game and all that kind of stuff, right? This is obviously remaking the PS2 game, but when you look at them side by side, the differences are vast, and I think just graphics wise, this looks kind of phenomenal. I was really blown away. I'm probably going to pick this up. I'm a big fan of Pac-Man, like as a character. I just think he's really, well, why are you making a face? Why are you making a face about that?
It's just funny to me. I literally think my parents bought this game for me because they saw Pac-Man and we had a PlayStation 2. Right. And again, not a game that it was in my memory to be like, oh, I hope they remake that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just think it looks pretty phenomenal. I'm happy with whoever is putting in the immense amount of work to make these games look like modern gen games. Like, good on you. Hopefully this game sells well. I'll definitely be picking up a copy because I love Pac-Man. I love his little shoes and I love his little gloves. It's so nice to see him out in the wild. Next game that was shown off was Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. I believe that's how you pronounce that. This is a new, I don't want to say remake because this really feels kind of like a remaster of the game with some added quality of life improvements. But the graphics are majority the same, just kind of smoothed out. But this is the original game, which also was re-released as I believe, what was it, War of the Lions for the PlayStation Portable?
Again, another blind spot for me.
And oh, really?
Something that I know I'm going to be excited for the re-release of it. I'm still undecided on where I'm going to pick it up. Because I wanted to bring this up. I believe this was a game that we already knew was coming to the Switch. I believe this was the announcement that there was going to be a Switch 2 version of the game.
Potentially, yeah.
No, not potentially. Like, there's a Switch 2 version of the game.
Like, oh, no. I mean, potentially. I feel like we maybe knew it was coming to Switch 2, but we just hadn't seen it. What I mean?
Okay.
Right.
That's what I was trying to determine was like, we knew this game was coming. I feel like that this direct, that the new information that we got is that there is a Switch version and a Switch 2 version. And this is also like another instance where I am extremely divided. Because if you buy the Switch version, the Switch 2 upgrade is free. Mm-hmm. If you buy the Switch 2 version, physically, it is a key card.
Yeah.
But if you buy the Switch version, it's on the... It's on the cartridge, and then you just get the upgrade on your... What are we doing?
I don't know. It's hard to say, really. But I think this one is probably definitely worth picking up. Beforehand, when I saw the kind of the graphical updates, I was like, oh, that doesn't look like that much better. Like, I feel like they could have put a little bit more work into this. It would have been a great candidate for an HD 2D treatment, right, to this game. But that said, this kind of like was the birth of the HD 2D like graphic style, right? I mean, it's 2D characters in a 3D world, and so I think that it looks good. And seeing some of the quality of life stuff that they've added to this actually makes me want to get this game. I do have nostalgia for this game, even though this genre is something that I have difficulty with as I go forward. But, Summer, if you are interested in picking up this game, maybe get it digitally so I can play your copy. Anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on to our next bit of news. And that is Persona 3 Reload was here in the Direct. I think we all figured this was coming. I'd still love to see a Switch 2 upgrade for Persona 5, but Persona 3... Seriously. Persona 3 coming is good. You played this recently, right, Summer?
Yes, I played it on Xbox, and I think the debacle with this is do we know that we're getting the DLC as well? I think that's something we're confused about, maybe.
I'm not super clear on that.
Yeah. And this is another key card, so I'm just kind of over it already.
Right. And that's, those games, I don't know. These games you want to have at the ready. Like, I mean, I feel like this would be a great mobile game, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
not to be confused with Persona 3 mobile, but
yeah, absolutely. But just having on the go is what I mean.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
I don't know. Either way, I haven't played this game yet. I probably won't. I need to finish Persona 5 before I even think about starting Persona 3. So I think that I will probably be passing on this. But
I mean, if the overall like vibe and storytelling, like if the themes of 3 like resonate with you more than 5, like I don't think it would be a bad idea to jump.
What are the differences there? Like, what would you say is like them kind of story wise?
Yeah, story-wise, the like major themes of Persona 5 are about justice and like liberty, and the main themes of 3 are like life and death, basically. Yeah.
I'll take liberty and justice. I think I'll stick with Persona 5.
Okay. All right.
I don't give a fuck about death. I'm not dying. Anyway, moving on to our next announcement here. We had another trailer from Age of Imprisonment, Hyrule Warriors. This is the Koei Tecmo developed, Nintendo published, canonical, as was announced in this trailer.
Funny.
Prequel to Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. So, they definitely made a point to say that this is not like the other one. This is going to be canon to the story. I think this is looking pretty good. I think here they did not give a release date for this game still, which was kind of surprising and a little odd. I actually had to do a double take. I thought I'd missed the release date. It's very strange that this was not shown. I think it's still set to release this year, so maybe they're squashing bugs. But are you a Hyrule Warriors fan? I know you've played a few of the Warriors games.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually fully played the last one. I meant to, and then I never did. So this one looks great though. Like, yeah, maybe after I finish replaying through Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 versions, I will play the last Hyrule Warriors and then this one.
Are you playing those games right now?
Yeah.
A little bit of spoiler for the games we're playing section, but yeah, no, I mean, this looks pretty great. I think it's the formula is obviously wearing a little thin. I played Dynasty Warriors on PS2 back in the day, and it hasn't changed much, no matter what coat of paint you put on it. But they are still very fun, and this one's at least looking good. I hope that they don't sacrifice, frames per second just to have like higher fidelity on the screen. I think that's been a major problem with these games is the performance, because there's so much happening. So I would much rather, have the game run at 720p and 60 frames per second at handheld than to have another 1080p 30 FPS game in handheld, right? So that's all I'd say about this game in particular, but that's pretty good to see. We kind of already brought up NFL. The Madden series is returning, the realest Madden ever, as was pronounced on the direct here. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm glad to see it. Either way, we'll move past that right now. Madden 26 is coming to the Switch 2, so that's more for the casual sports games fans. Next thing announced was a campfire building simulator called Chillin' by the Fire. This one was very silly for me. I don't know what you thought about this, Summer, but someone in my chat said that this felt like a COVID era game that was released 5 years too late. But it does seem that it's a game where literally you just build a fire on a beach, and that is all there is to it. What did you think about this?
Silly is the right word. Don't know that I have much else to say. As soon as I saw, as soon as it got to the end and it said releasing later today, I was just like, for who?
Yeah.
Okay, this seems funny. For who? Yeah. My takeaway from this was, have indie games gone too far? This is kind of feels like the ultimate cozy game here. You can also, it uses the Switch 2 camera where you can see your friends' faces floating in orbs above the fire as you make it.
I think I might pass it on this one, dog, but I'm happy to see someone get a game like this in the spotlight, I suppose. Not much more to say on this one. Next game that showed up was Apex Legends. I wish Jordan was here because I know Jordan is a big Apex Legends fan. Apex Legends does not run very well on Switch 1 at all. In fact, I would pretty much say it's unplayable on Switch 1. So this version actually looks completely playable. This is releasing on August 5th. So I'll probably give this one a try. It's probably going to be 100 gig game, so maybe I won't actually. It's this or Fortnite. You can't have both, but that was announced. After that was Hella, which is a really cool looking third person like mouse adventure game that you could play co-op. Yeah, well, what were your thoughts on this game, Summer?
I was ecstatic. I am extremely rodent pilled when it comes to video games. This was just gorgeous looking. I just beyond the fact that you play as a mouse, it just looks gorgeous. Not to go from dunking on the campfire game to being like mouse game, but
well, this looks like it's more of like a video game than the campfire game.
Oh,
I would say.
Yeah, for sure. But looks gorgeous. Yeah.
If you're so rodent pilled, have you played Small Saga? Have you heard of that game?
Yes, I have I'm advocating from like my game club that I'm in to play it, like to have it as one of our next games that we play.
It looks really fascinating. I've always wanted to play it just because I love the graphic style.
I've heard fantastic things. Yeah.
Ooh, interesting. Well, maybe you have to check that out. Next up, going back to Nintendo games, looked like the Ubisoft game Star Wars Outlaws finally. Maybe we actually knew it already had a release date, but I had another trailer here showcasing it a little bit more. I think it's looking a little bit rough, if I'm honest, on Switch 2. This is an open world Star Wars game, so it's gonna have difficulty running on this tablet, I think, regardless. But I think it looks all right. I played the demo for this. I don't know that this game is ultimately for me. Do you care about this game at all?
Not necessarily. Maybe one day I'll play all of the Star Wars games when they're all $2. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, or in some collection made by whatever that company is that releases all the old PC games. Aspire, I believe. I know that one of the heads of Ubisoft was like, if this game does not succeed, Ubisoft as a company will cease to exist. So maybe it's our responsibility to have this game not succeed. Anyway, moving on. We had another game that was announced called Chronos: The New Dawn. And this kind of came out of nowhere. I'd never heard about this beforehand. This is very Dead Space coded. But I will say, looks really, really good graphically for a Switch 2 game. I don't know much about this other than it looks kind of Dead Spacey, Resident Evil-ish. I think this is a Bloober Team game. So this is probably whatever their next game was following the Silent Hill remake, which they just did recently. Do you have any interest in this? Is this the kind of game that fascinates you at all?
Nah, I saw a round head and I got excited at first thinking it might be Nier related.
I thought it was Nier too.
And then I saw that it wasn't, and then I didn't care anymore. So sorry, everyone that's excited.
Funny. Yeah, the first thing I said was, is this Nier? And then I was like, oh no, wait, it's a Dead Space wannabe. But I don't know. It's kind of nice to see. After this, we got a little bit more Yakuza coming to the Switch. So Yakuza Kiwami 1 was released on Switch 1. Is that correct? Am I
correct? So, yes, towards the end of the before we got the Switch 2.
Yes. Right. And that was Kiwami, not like the original Yakuza. Right.
Correct. Right. It's the remake of the original Yakuza.
Right. Perfect.
That's why it's called Yakuza Kiwami.
Right. Yes. Perfect. Exactly. And so that game, along with Yakuza Kiwami 2, are both getting Switch 2 versions. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to upgrade your Switch 1 version to this. I would imagine not. I know Sega kind of sells bespoke Switch 1 and Switch 2 versions.
I'm pretty sure they said that the Switch 1 version is getting an automatic upgrade.
I hope that's the case. Yeah.
I will double check that. But it came out as an announcement of Yakuza Kiwami 2 is coming to Switch 2. And then they said also Yakuza Kiwami is getting a Switch 2 upgrade. So I'm guessing, I guess I shouldn't assume anything.
Yeah, we don't want to spread misinformation on the internet. But either way, it is good to see that Seems like the whole Yakuza series is eventually going to come to the Switch, right?
They said something. RGG Studios made a post that kind of implied that is their goal. They said continuing to brawl our entire series onto the Switch too,
right?
Like as part of this announcement. So I think that is the plan.
Yeah. I'm seeing here on the thing, it says a digital bundle containing both Yakuza Kiwami 2 and Yakuza Kiwami will also be available, but not anything specifically about an upgrade only. If I'm going to be a betting man, I would say it being Sega, you'd likely have to buy it again. I know they did the same thing with Sonic Generations. They did the same thing with Puyo Puyo Tetris, so I think that likely if you bought it already on Switch 1, I think you're probably shit out of luck, which is bad practice, and I hope they eventually change that. But
it makes me happy that I waited.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say these Yakuza games look spectacular on Switch 2. I think they're all running at 4K, 60 FPS. They just look really phenomenal on the console.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna wait to talk about it, but Yakuza 0 Director's Cut on the Switch 2, I was just like in awe for the first 10 minutes because of how good it looks. It looks better than it looks better than Yakuza 0 on existing systems, like other systems. It
Crazy.
Just they really remade it for the Switch 2.
Yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Yakuza 0. I sort of started dipping my toe into the Yakuza series. I put it down for Donkey Kong, but like been playing it on Steam Deck where it runs at like 90 FPS, right? And so it's just like, the games I think are just really, really well optimized games in general, which allows them to scale really well for this lower spec hardware. So it's really nice to see. But after this, there was this bit of a sizzle reel. We're not going to go over all of these, or I guess I'll at least give them a shout out. Goodnight Universe, NBA Bounce, Hello Kitty Island Adventure is getting some DLC. Romancing Saga 2, Revenge of the Seven, which I believe is out now, or if it's not out now, it's coming very soon. Shinobi Art of Vengeance, which is unfortunately a 30 FPS Switch 1 only game. I know a lot of people with Switch 2s that got the new 2D Shinobi, expecting it to run at 60 FPS like it is on every other console. For some reason, it's only a Nintendo Switch 1 version. So hopefully they change that in the future, because that looks like a game that would play really well at 60 FPS. We also got Borderlands 4. And that was it, basically, for the sizzle reel there. And then we got the last two games here. And firstly, I want to bring up the game Adventures of Elliot the Millennium Tales. Another banger of a title
from Team Asano. Let's go.
That's right. HD 2D game from Square Enix, developed by Team Asano. This one really caught my eye, and it is an action RPG, which is why I'm interested in it. I've played a little bit of this. The demo that Shadow dropped on the day, Team Asano loves to do that. They're like early versions of the game that kind of showcase some of it, and they always give out like little surveys, like saying what they can improve and stuff like that.
And they do good on them, yeah.
Yeah, and they do. Yeah, Team Asano I really respect them as a developer for that reason. But this looks way more my speed than a lot of the turn-based RPGs that are in the HD 2D style. What are your thoughts on, I want to make sure I get this out right, The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales?
Yeah. First of all, they could have just called it The Millennium Tales. They can't keep getting away with this. Like, Team Asano, I love all of your games. You suck at names. You're so bad at them.
I think I heard someone online call it Elliot's Millennial Adventure, which
Jesus.
Which I think is a lot funnier, or Elliot the Millennial, which would be funny too. But
Ellie and then
Millennium.
How to combine Millennium and Elliot? Yeah,
I don't know.
No, this game already. We got a demo of it. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it already rips.
You've been playing it too?
Yeah, and I'm so excited for it. And because I have been into more action oriented games lately too, and being in that style, and I trust this team with like storytelling as well. So yeah. Really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think it looks absolutely fabulous. You have a kind of little fairy companion that you can control with the right stick, which is really cool. And then you can also have a second player control the fairy as well. Fairy's name is Faye, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I don't know. It just looks really, really, really good. I was a big fan of Crosscode, which is a game that I think this game took a lot of its identity from. Obviously a lot of people are comparing it to like top-down Zelda games because of the kind of the action RPG style of it. But I think that Crosscode almost feels a little bit more of a better comparison. A really fantastic indie RPG that is also action-based. Definitely worth checking out. But that was really, really great to see. I'm really excited for this. It's definitely shot up to one of my most anticipated games for the Switch 2. And then I think we need to talk here about the next game that was shown off, which is what everybody thought the first game was, which is a new Octopath Traveler game. This is Octopath Traveler 0. Not sure why it's called that. Maybe it's a prequel?
Because they suck at, yes, it's a prequel.
Okay, there you go.
Like, it was clearly a prequel, but also, like, yeah, they suck at naming games. Like, yeah.
Very
0.
strange.
Fine.
Is there anything in this that's kind of setting it apart from the other Octopath Traveler games? I'm not super familiar with the franchise.
I have paid attention to it because I was still really excited for the adventures of Elliot, and I still need to play Octopath Traveler 2, so I didn't really pay that much attention here.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean,
whoopsie.
It looks like an Octopath Traveler game. I mean, I know people love this franchise. Did you play both?
I still need to play the second game.
Okay.
I got maybe a little more than halfway through the first one, and realized I wasn't super enjoying it, so I stopped. But all of my complaints about the first one, from what I hear, were basically remedied in the second one. So that being said, so I have like hesitations about a prequel game to a game that I didn't necessarily care for. I don't know. Maybe that opinion will change after I play 2.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that I've kind of written the series off. Sorry for me. I think that I'm probably just going to have to be okay not playing these games. And there's so many games to play. It doesn't really bother me too much, but I think that, ultimately it does seem that this is Square Enix's like new big franchise. Obviously they really now with 3 games under their belt in the span of like 5-6 years, or I don't know how long it was since the original Octopath Traveler came out. Like, that's pretty crazy. It seems to be kind of the heir apparent to like the traditional Final Fantasy formula, right? Is this kind of Octopath Traveler series. I don't know if you would say that that's accurate.
I have a personal bias for Bravely Default, so I would say that is, but that's also still Team Asano, and I think they're just kind of letting Team Asano do what they want. And now they've got all these different things they're doing. Yeah,
good for them. I'm happy for them. Well, let's try to give this a rating then. What would you give this Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase on a scale from A to F?
I'll say like somewhere between a C+ and a B-. I would say, like. Yeah, there were things I was excited about. Also, it's hard to grade it. It's not like first party. Making some of these things like a full direct almost feels like, I don't know. I think all of these could have been their own individual announcements. I think some of these games could have been announced maybe a month ago during like other game. I don't know. It's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I think I was actually stronger on it when we started this episode, and now that we've gone through everything, I'm like, this is probably like a C-. I think that ultimately, out of all of this, I'm excited for Pac-Man World. I'm excited for Katamari, and I'm excited for Adventures of Elliot. And I think that's mostly. I mean, I guess Final Fantasy Tactics, but.
We knew that was coming.
We knew that was coming already. And even then, it's like, I'm not sold on that game. Like, I have it. I have the PlayStation version. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I've got the strategy guide for the PS1 version. So it's like, it's like quality of life. I can just check the strategy guide if I really want to min-max battles, right? So it's like, how much am I really going to be picking that game up? But either way, I don't know that this was the strongest showing for Nintendo this early in its life cycle of the new system. But others have pointed out, early Nintendo Directs, the July Direct or the June Direct rather, after the Switch 1 came out, was similarly a bit deflating, right? I think that they had a lot of their big showcases towards September, right? And I think that we'll probably see the same here. Do you have any thoughts on just kind of the cadence of Nintendo Directs since the Switch 2 has come out, and why maybe this was a little bit more underwhelming than a lot of people were expecting, Summer?
Yeah, and I think, when we talk about like the cadence of Nintendo Directs and the timing and how we used to think that we could predict them, I think the past maybe 2-3 years have told us that none of that matters anymore. So as far as the timing of this, I do think it was a bunch of trailers that they put together to put something out so that way they'd get people to shut up about a direct, because they still don't know when they're going to give us a first party direct.
Really? You think so?
I mean, like, yeah, we can hope for September, and that would be ideal to get us excited for the holiday season. But I don't know that we can bank on that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I have a different takeaway. And I think for me, it was that this all but confirmed that September Direct is clinched. You know, I think that Nintendo was basically holding a lot of what they would have generally had for a summer Direct in that E3 season, which this is the first time that we haven't gotten a Direct in June in forever, you know?
Sure.
And I think that, we usually get one, but I mean, the system dropped in June, you know? So I think, they held this till the very, very end of July, to basically have contractual obligations with their third-party partners, I would imagine, is kind of the reason that it was right there at the very end of the month, right? And I think that they just have been coasting on the fact that the system is selling just because it has the name Switch in it right now. We don't need to get a bunch of hype for upcoming games in Nintendo's first party oeuvre to compete too much with the games that they're trying to sell right now in this launch window. I still kind of feel like we're still in the launch window sort of time of the Switch 2.
I'd agree.
So I think that we'll be seeing a lot more stuff, and I think that we will be getting new games coming out this year that haven't been announced yet, revealed in September. And, I think one of those might be a Fire Emblem. I think, one of those might be something with Mario, be that a Mario Maker 2, a 3D Mario, something like that. I think that we'll be getting some blowout stuff pretty soon in September. It's hard to compare the Switch 1's first year with the Switch 2 because the Switch 1 came out several months before the Switch 2 did in its respective year in 2017, right? So it had a lot more wiggle room for the rest of the year to put out bangers.
Sure.
But that's kind of my take on it, I think.
I think I just realized that I think we're going to get Mario Paint 2.
Oh, Daddy. Well, it's just Mario.
I think that's
Photoshop.
I don't know. I think with them releasing the original one, that they do this sometimes. They line up, the old games to then release a new game.
Maybe Pilot Wings?
Field.
Pilot Wings? Is that all but confirmed? Since we got 3 Pilot Wings soundtracks dropping in one day?
Wait, yeah. I think we're getting a new Pilot Wings and a new Mario Paint. And I think we're going to get those next month in the September Direct. God, They're both going to be shadow drops. You're right.
You cannot tickle my pickle like that live on stream, Summer, please. No, but sorry for verbiage there. But no, I mean, I if anything, I kind of think that I feel like Mario Maker 3, I feel like is going to be how they, we did a whole episode on this recently, so we won't rehash this too much, but I really think that Mario Maker 3 is all but confirmed, and that seems to me like what will happen this year. And I think that throwing in some Mario Paint-esque stuff into the creative tools there. Mario Maker is kind of a spiritual successor to Mario Paint in a lot of ways. A lot of the same characters are in them. The robot that saves stuff and all this kind of stuff. They're all in Mario Maker 2. You can rope in Mario Brothers 35 into that game. Have it be a huge, big celebration of the franchise as a whole. But that's what I think we'll probably see. And last thing before we close out here, I do want to just say, fuck Woodhawker, beat 'em ups who had the whole fake leak about what this Direct was going to be, came out recently, said it was all fake. A lot of people are pissed off about him. The first thing I thought when this Direct ended was, man, Wood made all of that shit up. And then he came out with a video being like, yep, I made it all up. So I don't know. He lost a sub from me. Sorry. Not trying to be too butthurt about that, but I found that to be something that we should probably at least mention. Anyway, I didn't want to end this on a salty note. What did you think about the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase, family? Watching this video or listening to this podcast, please let us know in the comments on the YouTube, or please join us over on the Discord and tell us your thoughts on this Partner Showcase and what you think that we will see in a September Direct. Am I crazy? Is a September Direct not guaranteed? Let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our last segment of the show here, which is the games we've been playing right after this break. So I have been playing, like I said, a little bit of the Adventures of Elliot the Millennium Tales demo, but not really enough to talk about totally. Hopefully I'll have played more of it. I'd like to stream that, to be honest. So I'll talk more about that next week. And I have also been playing a little bit of the Nintendo Switch Online playtest. I did get back in. That playtest is live now until the 10th of August. I'm going to be honest. I turned it on and I got completely overwhelmed and I just turned it off almost immediately. I wanted to see like how it performed on my Switch 2 because the performance was pretty bad on Switch 1, but they added a bunch of stuff to this. I know I'm not really supposed to talk about it, but obviously we've talked a little bit about it on this show. It's kind of like a builder sort of Robloxy Minecraft sort of thing. It is an MMO. It's a complete, huge, massively multiplayer game where everybody's playing right now. There's a lot of customization. You can customize your characters. They've added like sports events and stuff into this thing. I know a lot of people have been talking about how this game might be a framework for, testing out netcode for Animal Crossing or other sort of Nintendo MMOs. And I think that might still be the case, but I do think this is a full game that they're trying to make. Like they put so much work into all the assets of this game, all the lore. There's like a god character in it. There's like this whole creator sort of theme going on. Like there's all these crazy character designs. So it's like if this was all just to test out stuff, like they wouldn't put that much work into it, right? So I think eventually this will come out as a game, but it's hard to wrap your head around, and without any sort of real tutorial present, it's hard to figure out what you're doing in it. So yeah, you had a question, Summer?
Yeah. Does it feel Nintendo to you when you say that it's got all of these like developed characters and designs?
Yeah, it definitely feels Nintendo. And the movement feels really good. You have like a tail, your character, and you can like whip around kind of like Spider-Man and like use it to sort of catapult around. So the platforming is there, but it's got a lot of Minecraft in it. It's got a lot of Roblox in it. It's very create focused, and I feel like so much of Nintendo recently has been. Tears of the Kingdom took a lot from Minecraft. I think so many of their games, Bonanza takes a lot from Minecraft with the digging. And so many more that we could talk about. But I'll call it there. I haven't really played enough to really talk about it. I keep trying to fire it up, but it's like, again, I get so overwhelmed and I don't know what any of the buttons do and I forget. It's like picking up right where I left off the last time, which was almost 6 months ago now. So I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. But and by that I mean actually almost more like 10 months ago that it was live. So but the other thing that I will talk about here is I beat Donkey Kong Bonanza. And by that I mean I rolled credits on Donkey Kong Bonanza. I finished the main story and I'm now in the post game. I am obviously not going to spoil anything here, but holy fucking shit. The way that this game ends blows your mind, or at least it blew my mind. This is one of the best finales of a video game I can think of in recent memory. It was just nonstop. Like, I don't want to say fan service because it fit into the story and everything worked so well, and I'm trying to dance around a bunch of stuff, and I definitely don't want to spoil anything. But if you're not spoiled yet, definitely try to avoid stuff online because there is some really, really amazing ways that this game decides to end. And I think that it wraps up the story really well. It's really satisfying. That like, New Donk City finale section of Mario Odyssey with the big music and everything. I feel like this game has that at the end of this game. Not the New Donk City necessarily, but just like in its presentation and its, how extra it all is. It's really, really fantastic. And then the game, it opens up a little bit at the end. There's kind of a new area you can explore, and there's lots of new challenges in some of the older sections that you'd already gone through. So, man, I really think that I might want to do a spoiler like talk on this game and just talk about its post game and talk a little bit more freely about the way that this game like concludes, because I think that Donkey Kong Bonanza might be one of my favorite games I've ever played in my entire life. I just think it's an absolutely fabulous game. And as a Donkey Kong fan who's been hoping for like a good, solid 3D Donkey Kong game for decades now, this is the game that I've always wanted. And it is, I think it's better than Odyssey. I think that it is, I can't imagine there being a better game that I play this year. And this will definitely wind up being one of the finest games on the Switch 2 by the end of its life. I would be surprised if it's not in the top 5 of my favorite games to come out for the Switch 2. But maybe I'm being a little too doomy and gloomy on the rest of the Switch's library here. But man, I love this game so much.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, I'm being a little over the top on it, but it is
huge praise. Huge praise.
It is made for me. It is absolutely made for me. I love this game to pieces. Anyway, but what about you, Summer? What have you been playing recently?
Yeah, so like I said earlier in the episode, I didn't grow up with Mario Paint, so I was looking forward to exploring it now that it's on the Switch and notably Switch 2. And I love to take my I've always liked to take my handheld gaming device with me to public spaces. I go to a bar frequently. I took my Switch 2 with me, sat at the bar and opened up Mario Paint and started playing around and painting. And I wanted to highlight just my experience doing this because it was such a great conversation starter. I have so many friends at this bar that I hang out at, and so many people were just coming up and they were like, "Is that Mario Paint?" And then they would say, they'd ask like, "So did you grow up with it?" And I have to explain like, "No, I didn't grow up with it, but I was excited to play it and like show them what I was working on." And then they would be like, "Oh yeah, I used to try to replicate Metallica songs in it." And I'm like, "That's funny. There's no accidentals in this game. Like, how did you do that?" And it was just funny. And I'm like, I think this is my experience now because mouse mode worked great on a bar countertop. Like that was also,
I would imagine so.
Just showcasing that too, and like letting other people try that was kind of fun. Like playing with the mouse mode Joy-Con. Really,
Mario
really
Paint with a mouse mode in a bar is the new someone seeing your Switch at the airport and then getting a Switch on their own. And it's like the new commercial should be that.
Yeah, that was kind of how it felt. I was like, okay, I have my activity for the next 2 hours, and it's playing Mario Paint at the bar and mouse mode at the bar.
That's funny.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I also said before, I finally booted up Yakuza 0 Director's Cut on my Switch 2 because I was so excited after the partner showcase, after seeing Kiwami and Kiwami 2 coming to the Switch 2. So I was like, okay, time for me to finally boot this up and get going on it. And I'm not far enough in. I'm playing with the English dub. I'm not far enough in to give a full judgment on the English dub. I know that people are divided. I'm saving my judgment for when I get to the first Majima chapter. So that's, I'm
judgment.
like, about, yes, judge. Yes, sick Yakuza reference, judgment. I'm saving my opinion for the dub until I get to the first Majima chapter, because while Matt Mercer is beloved in geek circles, I have heard a lot of maybe criticism isn't the right word, just like that it's not the best casting for Majima. Because Matt Mercer is a little bit too of like a cool guy, and Majima is like constantly on the like brink of like losing it. And so but I haven't heard it myself yet, so I'm saving my judgment, sick Yakuza reference, for hearing more of that. That being said, yes, it looks so good on the Switch too. It looks better than it did on my Xbox. That's the part that just had me in absolute shock. The one thing I will say, my only complaint about it on the Switch 2 is that the action-based, like the real-time commands during the more like cinematic moments of brawls, I got used to seeing them with like the colored button, like right. So like my on Xbox or PlayStation, because it would be colored on that too. And all of those buttons on the right are just black and white and gray. And so my brain doesn't pick up on it quite as quickly. Even though I've been a Nintendo gamer my entire life, seeing B doesn't necessarily register in my brain right away because it's not associated with a color. And I'm sure I'll pick it up eventually. But even in a karaoke mode, because it's the same deal, it's the same like A, B, X, Y, because there's not a color associated, I'm finding myself having a harder time.
No, I still have problems with that. I'm primarily a Nintendo gamer, and I can get the A and B like those feel natural to me when I see
Sure.
Nintendo, but every time I see X, I always try to hit Y on the Switch controller. Like I always think Y is the top one and X is the one on the left, right? For some reason, those two have never been able to get them right in my head. And it's made even worse with GameCube because those were on the other side of the face buttons. You know what I mean? So it's for some reason A and B is natural to me, but X and Y I've never been able to wrap my head around as far as that's concerned. Oh man, I wish that we had a USB-C style Bureau of Standards to make all this one collective thing early in the 90s before we had to move on, but whatever.
In 2026, just like the USB-C, the UK will make legislation that requires all gaming systems after this point to have color-coordinated buttons. Or
Save us, European Union.
They're all the same. Like the top button has to be green and the bottom button has to be red.
Yeah, we all thought that the Switch 2 was going to have colored buttons like the Super Famicom.
That was like a huge thing that we thought was a tell.
Yeah, we did. We were like, oh, see,
now they're all gray, and now my life is ruined because I can't tell the buttons apart.
Come on, Nintendo. What are you doing? All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to us, I guess.
Woohoo, we did it.
Always do the podcast. I think this was a great intimate conversation that we had here. Would you say so, Summer?
Yeah, I love talking about games that we don't care about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I loved having this intimate conversation about a direct that we both think was a C. Many thanks to MilkyWay.co for doing our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. Thanks to all of our patrons on Patreon. And if you'd like to find me online, I'm pretty much ever on the internet at Monolith Fiji.
You can find me most places at Weebwitched.
And if you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Blue Sky and Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a website, switchheadz.com, and we have a Discord, a Patreon, and a Facebook group. We'll have links to all three of those in the description of this episode. Whether you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify or watching us on YouTube, please leave us a comment and a like on YouTube. Leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. You can comment on Spotify as well. And like we said, join us over on the Discord. It's such a wonderful community. We'd love to have you there. We always have wonderful conversation every week that we put an episode out. The conversation continues on there, and we talk about all sorts of other stuff as well. If you want the latest breaking news, we've always got it coming out on the Discord. Such a wonderful community. Where would I be without them? God only knows. But like I said, that's going to do it. We've got a great episode waiting for you guys next week, so don't touch that dial. But in the meantime, you guys know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Maybe it's time for all of us to just play the Yakuza series. Well, what do you think? Is it finally time? I don't know.
I think so.
Games. All right, we'll talk about it later. We love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.